And welcome back to another episode of Eagles Talk with Deeg. My name is Brenden Deeg. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. It would be greatly appreciated. You can also rate the podcast and review the podcast wherever you listen to your podcast. It would also be greatly appreciated. I have a very special guest with us, friend of the show, writer for The Athletic, Bo Wulf is with us. Bo, how we doing?
Doing very well, Brenden. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you.
Draft season.
It's draft season, man. Appreciate you taking the time to come on. Before we kind of jump into the NFL draft, I do want to kind of zoom out a little bit and talk about the Eagles offseason as a whole. Bo, how do you think the Eagles have handled the offseason? Do you think Howie's done a good job, bad job? Is there anything you wish they would have done, wish they didn't do? What do you make of the last couple months in Philly land?
I think they've had a good offseason, and it's kind of funny because they seem to have been sort of defensive about it. They have been sort of putting out the messaging of, hey, like, make sure that you consider that we signed these guys to extensions during the season. That should count as part of our free agency. So, I mean, sorry, that's not really how it works.
They always do that, don't they? They always like bring up like draft picks or trades.
Yeah, it's like, sorry, that's not how it works. You can't just just do that. Like, oh well, we traded up for Carson Wentz, but that led to us getting an extra second round pick. Like, okay, that's not how it works. You got to evaluate everything on its own merits. Anyway, I think they have been prudent to a good degree. I think that they tried and failed on several fronts, right? They tried to be involved in the Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson sweepstakes. They tried to be able to sign Allen Robinson and Christian Kirk and Marcus Williams and Jordan Reed. But those guys ended up getting bigger deals elsewhere. I think that's fine. I mean, we can save Deshaun Watson. I don't really want to get into that right now because I don't think that was a smart thing to do.
Agreed.
Or an ethical thing to do. But that's for a separate conversation. But this is the case of like listening to what they say versus listening or watching what they do. Like they say we didn't really need to upgrade at wide receiver. Like, what our upgrade at wide receiver is going to come from more targets for Devontae Smith and more targets for Dallas Goedert and more targets for Quez Watkins. Well, then why did they try to sign, Allen Robinson and Christian Kirk or trade for Calvin Ridley before he was suspended by the league? I think they have, like, if you look at just what they've done, I think it's been good. Kaiser White is great value. I'm curious why it was that he was available for such a relatively cheap deal and like a week into free agency. Hassan Reddick is a really impactful signing. They were 31st in the league in sacks and sack rate last season. They needed to improve the pass rush, and they got the guy who was the most productive pass rusher on the market, sack-wise, over the past couple seasons. I'm curious to see how they're going to use him. He might get some reps at that Sam linebacker spot, but I think there's no question that he's being paid $15 million to get after the quarterback. The only thing that I sort of don't love about their offseason is the whole Fletcher Cox saga. Letting him go and then bringing him back for like a really above market deal for
a lot of money for the production that he's put up the last couple of years.
When they could have signed somebody with similar production for half that money.
Agreed.
I think that was the one curious move of their offseason. But generally speaking, I think it's been good. And obviously the trade down to get the future first-round pick from the Saints is probably the biggest thing they did this offseason, setting everything up for next offseason when they can really decide to make a decision at quarterback based off what Jalen Hurts does in 2022.
Let's tail off the last thing you said, the Saints trade. What did you make of that? Do you think it was a good move, bad move?
I think it was a good move. I think it was a sensible move. I don't think that it was like crazy value that as some people did. I think it was appropriate value based on some of the other trades in the past, because you have to think that they're not moving down in the first round from that trade based off the ledger. They're moving out entirely. Like they moved all the way down to the third round. So it makes sense that you would get a future first and a future second for that. I think it's fine. I think there is there are game theory reasons about like why it wouldn't be great to have three picks clustered so closely together in the first round anyway. So I think that makes sense.
Like I feel like you're gonna end up picking up 3 first-year options. I think that would be kind of a pain in the butt.
I think the cap is maybe overstated because like if you get 3 good players, 3 guys worth signing to 5th-year options, that's a good problem to have, right? That means you hit
fair
all
enough.
the picks.
Yeah.
I think it's more like they're like the whole hope with a draft pick, right, is that you get somebody who falls to you where there's a big difference in where you have them on the board and where you are. Like at 15, you're hoping you get somebody at the back end of your top 10, right? And I think if they're clustered so closely together at 15, 17, 18, whatever it was, 15, 18, 19, that's less likely to happen as the picks keep coming, right? So I think they would have tried to be trading down from those spots anyway. I also think that like just because they have 2 picks next year doesn't mean that they're all of a sudden now in the driver's seat to be able to trade up for a quarterback in next year's draft. They're one of 5 teams now that has multiple picks.
Lions, Texans, teams that are probably going to need a quarterback as well and probably going to be worse, right?
Every one of those teams could be in the market to trade up for a quarterback. I still sort of think it's more likely they're going to use those picks if it's for a quarterback, that it's a veteran, like somebody comes loose and they make that move. But that's just sort of a guess on my part. But I think it all makes sense. I think it makes sense to stagger this stuff. I think it makes sense to give Jalen Hurts one more year. They explored the other quarterback options. I think what they did is very sensible.
So you've had some time to kind of sit and ponder the 2021 season. Has the confidence, I guess, in yourself risen on Jalen Hurts? Do you think, like, as you've been sitting on the year, kind of taking a look at it, has your confidence have you gained confidence in him, or do you think, like, have you lost confidence? Have you felt like, oh, this offense was tailored around him? Like, what is your opinion on him going into next year? And how do you think they kind of run this offense? Because if I'm Eagles, I don't know if you can run the similar offense and kind of in your head know if Jalen Hurts is the future, right? You're going to have to put him in scenarios where he's going to have to throw the ball, right?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I think that if you built the offense around Jalen Hurts as a running quarterback, like they did in the second half of the season, and you are still a top 10 offense like they were in the second half of the season, like that's fine.
That's fair.
You don't need him to be a different type of quarterback if it's not going to lead to, success. I think the question is that type of offense sustainable over the long haul?
Yeah. Did someone ask Howie that, by the way, this offseason? Did we get an answer on that? Because I've been really curious what he would think.
If it was asked, he sort of sidestepped it, I think.
Okay.
I don't think we got a direct answer on that front. My guess is that they probably don't think that is the case, just given everything we know about them and their philosophies. But my opinion on him has not changed much in the sense that I think that he is a starting caliber quarterback. I think that he has earned another year as the starter, like absent a better option, which did not present itself. And I think it's unlikely that he's going to end up being an elite quarterback. I think that is the chances of that hitting are pretty small. Now, what the Eagles say, at least publicly, is that like this is a guy who say what you will about him, but whatever his ceiling is, he is wired and is such a hard worker and is so dedicated that he will hit whatever his ceiling is. And that's fine. But we don't know what his ceiling is. And it's also telling that, the things that Nick Sirianni said that Hurts needs to improve on are accuracy and reading defenses, which are like the primary jobs of the quarterback. Right. The line that we've said on Birds with Friends is that like Jalen Hurts is good at everything about being a quarterback except for throwing the ball, which is like, it's like saying you're good at wide receiver except you can't catch. Like that's the primary role of the job. I think it makes total sense to give him another year, see if he does make a leap. Like I thought he made a real leap from year 1 to year 2. Let's see if he makes another leap from year 2 to year 3.
Agreed. I think the ideal scenario was them to give him another year, not kind of rush this thing. Yeah, but I want first half week 10 Denver Broncos Hurts. That's basically what you need. That was the best he played football, right? Like I still remember watching that half. Like if he can turn into this guy, then they got something here. All right, but why don't we jump into some draft talk here? What do you think the biggest need on the Eagles roster is heading into the draft?
I think they have done a pretty good job of addressing their biggest short-term needs in free agency, which is part of why I think they've had a good offseason. Signing Kaiser White means that they don't have to reach for a linebacker to pair with TJ Edwards to start. I think safety is still a pretty pressing short-term need. I mean, right now it's Anthony Harris and Marcus Epps. I think you would certainly like somebody added to that group. And, your second starting cornerback is a pressing need. The Eagles have said that they're sort of excited about their bunch of young guys that they have, and they went and added a bunch of young guys in season, I think, to sort of prepare for potentially not signing a cornerback this offseason. So you've got guys like Zach McPherson, who was their 4th-round pick last year, Tay Gowan, who was part of the Zach Ertz trade, Kerry Vincent, who they sent a 6th-round pick for, Mac McCain, Josiah Scott, all of these guys. My sense is that they need another good corner. So I think corner is an option in the 1st or 2nd round for them. I don't think they need to worry about building up the depth at that position because of the guys they have. Because as I view it, they need not just somebody to start opposite Darius Slay. They need somebody to eventually replace Darius Slay as the number 1 corner because he's going to be 31 years old soon. Yeah. So I think those are their most pressing needs. I think wide receiver is still a very pressing need. I mean, they signed Zach Pascal to sort of clear the bar of competency in their top 3. If it's Devontae Smith, Quez Watkins, and Zach Pascal, I think you want to do better there, especially if you want to get a good evaluation of Jalen Hurts. You need to give him the kind of weapons that you would want to see for a starting caliber quarterback. And then long term, they could use everything. They just need good players all over the place. They need help at defensive tackle long term. Fletcher Cox and Javon Hargrave are both entering the final year of contracts. At defensive end, Brandon Graham could be entering his last season. Derek Barnett is, re-signed to what is probably a 1-year deal. Who knows exactly how Hassan Reddick figures in there. You've got Josh Sweat, but knowing how they prioritize the position, that's a need. Running back, you want to replace Miles Sanders after this year, probably. Offensive line, do you need somebody in waiting to take over for Lane Johnson? Do you need another interior offensive lineman to add to the group that they have there? So I think they're in a good position to sort of take, best player available, quote unquote, depending on who's on the board, who presents the most positional value for them. I think they're in a good position to not have to force needs, which is really what you want to set yourself up for in the draft.
Yeah, needs are free agency, draft, best player available. And I think I agree with you. I think they've done a good job. I think safety, corner, wide receiver, probably, right? Maybe in that order. But I want to talk about the wide receivers here because I'm a sucker for that's
sure.
My main focus when I watch a draft is the wide receivers. And especially when you're an Eagles fan, right? That's all you have to do because they are always in the market for one, considering they can never hit on one besides Devonta Smith. Shout out him. What do you? I am just getting my rankings in. This morning, I decided on my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm curious. Have you gotten yours yet? Have you decided who your favorites are?
I have,
okay.
At least at the top.
Are you ready to break the news on the
sure.
Double Doing podcast?
Yeah, Zach Berman, Shilkapali, and I just posted our rankings for the Eagles' 1st-round options on the Athletic, 20 guys, and there are 6 receivers in there included. So I think there is, to me, a top 2, and it's Jameson Williams and Garrett Wilson. And I sort of flip-flop on that order.
Agreed. Those are my top 2 as well. I have Jameson Williams 1, Garrett Wilson 2.
Okay. And I don't worry about the ACL with Jameson Williams. I think he'll probably be fine. And if he's not ready until, October or November, that's fine. The draft is about getting guys for the long haul, right? Mm-hmm. And he's got more juice than anybody in the class. He is he was productive. He's young. I guess there's a part of me that wonders why he couldn't break through at Ohio State, even though Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave are really good. But I think Jameson Williams, you add to this offense, I think that opens things up.
100% home run hitter. He does it all. I was very surprised that his route running too. There was one clip. He had a double move on Twitter that I think I've watched 1,000 times. The guy, I think he's bona fide the best receiver in the draft class. Garrett Wilson, I like a lot as well. I'm not a huge fan of the frame on him, but I guess you can kind of say the same thing as well. Wilson or on Williams, he is a little skinnier, but I do feel like he can maybe fill out that body type a little bit more. And I agree that I don't think it's a torn ACL in January. Right, he's 21 years old. These guys can recover from that kind of thing. So do you think there's a big drop off from Jameson Williams and Garrett Wilson to the other wide receivers?
I do. I think that Wilson and Williams to me are good picks at 15. I would sort of hope that you have a different position at 15 just because the hit rate on wide receivers in the 1st round is so low. And I think there are, the Eagles have 3 picks on day 3. I think if you had a receiver there, I think that if you're plotting it out, that makes a little bit more sense. But I don't love all the options at 18. I like Treylon Burks to me is number 3, and then there's a drop off for me after that to the other two guys. Like Burks, I think at 18 would be fine. I'm not like thrilled about it. I think
this is a Treylon Burks fan podcast. I'm in love with the guy.
You like
He's
the
my
guy?
third receiver. I like him a lot. I'm a sucker for that kind of receiver.
I like him too. Like, would I rather have him in the first round or like George Pickens in the second round? I think I'd rather have Pickens than somebody else. But like, I think Treylon Burks is exciting, and he's the kind of guy who like I think would excite Nick Sirianni because Sirianni wants to add a little bit more yards after catch to the offense. And I think Burks obviously does that.
Yeah, no, that's right. I didn't think of it like that. I didn't think he'd be a Sirianni type of guy, but that does make some sort of sense. Are there any late round receivers that you've watched that you like?
So I like Pickens in the second round. Doing the work on the late round receivers is like my project for the next day.
Gotcha.
So I don't have names for you just yet. I like Calvin Austin from Memphis, and I think he would make sense for the Eagles. Give him a little bit of speed. Like I don't fully see it with Christian Watson.
His tape is weird. He's a weird study.
He's a weird looking. Yeah, I mean he's super fast. I thought he looked good at the Senior Bowl, but it's sort of like Denzel Mims at the Senior Bowl to me. Like I watch him like, oh, that guy's pretty good. Like he'll be good value in the third or fourth round, and then all of a sudden people are talking about him in the first or second round, and that's a little too rich for me. What's your Drake London take, Brenden?
I will say I do have maybe a little bit of a JJ Ortega-Whiteside PTSD. Like I know I hate to admit it, but he's fallen. The more I've watched him, the less I've liked him, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like, I sort of feel the same way. It's like I go into it, I'm like, okay, I know that like there are the comparisons to JJ. Like, get that out of your head. Like, watch this guy on his own merits. He's got a great profile. Like, that productive, that young, and for a slow guy is actually like a really good profile for a first or second round pick.
He's going to be 21 going into this year, right? He's that young.
Yeah, it's like exactly what I would look for profile wise. Like I always break the wide receivers down into these buckets of are they underclassmen or 3 years in college? Do they run faster than a 4.5? And are they productive? Do they have over 1,000 yards at any point in the season? And like that subset where you're productive and young and not fast is actually like a really good profile for a first or second round pick. And like people that I really trust, like love Drake London. Think he's the best receiver in the draft class. Nate Tice.
Nate Tice
likes him a lot.
Yeah.
There are a few guys. And I'm like, okay, like let's get excited about watching this guy. Don't worry about the JJ Ortega-Whiteside comparisons. And then I watch him and I just think he kind of stinks.
Yeah.
So like I sort of split the difference where like I don't like I think he stinks when I watch him, but the profile is great. People like him a lot, so I sort of split the difference. And like I would probably rather have him than Olave, who I don't love, and I don't love that profile. But like if I trusted my eyes, man, he would be like a fourth round pick. So what do I know?
I agree. Like I think there's something to the separation. A lot of it's contested catches and screen passes. They use them in a very odd way, like a ton of screens. And I know he broke some tackles. I think he was second in the country in broken tackles, second or fourth, something like that. But I don't know. I'm with you. I don't really see it. Can I give you a couple of names over the next couple of days to keep an eye on?
Let's see what you got.
Okay, so a Danny Gray from SMU.
I like Danny Gray. I watched him before the Senior Bowl.
I like him a lot.
I like Danny Gray.
He's my kind of under the radar guy, and I like a Bo Melton out of Rutgers.
I watched him for the Senior Bowl too. Okay. I didn't like him on tape, but in person, he was much shiftier than I was expecting. He gets off the line pretty well. So yeah, I mean, as a late round pick, I wouldn't mind a roll of the dice on a Bo Melton. Obviously, I like a Bo.
Yeah, there you go. That's why I didn't even think of that. Maybe that's why you should like him. Okay. Do you think they should take a wide receiver in the first round?
With 2 picks, I mean, it depends on how the board falls. I would, so tomorrow for The Athletic, I'm going to have my best case scenario mock draft, and I will not have the Eagles taking a wide receiver in the first round. I'll have them taking one either in the second or third round. I think just because of the hit rate at the position and because they don't need I mean, obviously it would be great to have a number 1 wide receiver, but like with Devontae Smith, I think they need somebody who's just good. And I think like, it would be better if they could add a defensive lineman or a corner or a safety with those 2 picks than wide receiver.
Okay, I'll get you on this question. I'm really curious. What do you think of Jordan Davis at 15? If
so,
he's there, take him?
he's fascinating to me because like you can really talk yourself into the fact that this guy could be a monster, right? That level of athleticism at that size is unprecedented. But there's really no history of a defensive tackle with as little sack production as he has over 4 years. So it's telling that he's not an underclassman. He played 4 years at Georgia. There's really very little precedent for somebody like that turning into a productive pass rusher in the NFL. It's basically Chris Jones, who was not an underclassman, I think, and Grady Jarrett, who was a 5th-round pick. So for you to use a 1st-round pick on him, thinking that like you're going to get this monster, I think is probably bad process. That said, like I don't love the other options that are likely to be there at 15, and I think that even if Jordan Davis's floor is just a very good run stuffing defensive tackle on 1st and 2nd down, I think that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, I ranked him as the 4th best option, and that's after like possible trade up options: Kayvon Thibodeau, Derek Stingley, Kyle Hamilton. Like those 3 guys, I think if the Eagles can get one of those guys without giving up more than a 3rd-round pick, they should be ecstatic.
Yeah.
If not, like I think I would probably take Davis over Garrett Wilson and Jameson Williams.
Okay.
And I don't think he's going to turn into some great, I don't think he's going to turn into Aaron Donald or whoever. Obviously those are much different body types, but I think that he's like he fits something that the Eagles prioritize. I think he would change the shape of their defense a little bit, and that makes sense to me.
So he visited the Eagles, I believe, yesterday or 2 days ago, and picturing him and Howie Roseman meet just makes me kind of giggle. But I'm all in on the guy. I would love him at 15. He's my ideal pick if he's there at 15. I think if you have the chance to get a game wrecker, you take it. And he's got that profile. And I think you guys said it perfectly on your podcast. He's a guy that defenses will have to plan around. Like every single game, they're going to have to plan around Jordan Davis. Let me throw one more scenario before we get out of here. I wanted your opinion on this. Jordan Davis, 15. I'm big on Trent McDuffie. I think Trent McDuffie is a good player. He's been the most fun player to me to watch out of all the corners. I know Stingley and Sauce Gardner have kind of the profile. They've got the longer arms and stuff. But McDuffie,
is he that much better than Avonte Maddox?
I don't think he does. He doesn't look that short to me on tape. I know he's 5'11", but he doesn't look. He plays bigger than that.
He's 5'11". He's got short arms. He's got 2 interceptions in 3 years, and he plays nothing but zone coverage. I don't know. Is that worth a 1st-round pick?
I think the way he shoots off the ball, and I hate to say this, but I feel like Jonathan Gannon's gonna love him too. He screams Jonathan Gannon type corner. No,
I don't love McDuffie. No, I just like for a 1st-round pick. There's not enough ball production. He's not like a ridiculous athlete. Is he like? Are you feeling good about him lining up against DK Metcalf? Like, is that changing the shape of your defense?
That's fair.
I don't know.
I
like Andrew Booth more, but he's got injury.
His injury history scares me. Booth's injury history scares me. Okay, so Jay Davis, let's say Davis at 15, another defensive player at 18. I like McDuffie. Could be a couple defensive linemen there or Booth, and then you trade
maybe Dax Hill.
Yeah, Dax Hill, I really like a lot. He's been a fun watch. And then you trade back into the 1st round, maybe back in the 1st round late, or you sit and get into the early 2nd round and you get a George Pickens. I'm really high on George Pickens. So
I think doing the ranking of the prospects with Zach and Shield was clarifying for me in that I really think that trading down from 18 is going to be the Eagles' best option.
Okay, gotcha. That makes sense. Bo Wulf, The Athletic. Really appreciate you taking time to come on. Anything you want to plug in before you go?
Birds with Friends. We'll have lots of draft content with Zach Berman and Shilka Padia. And then we've got all kinds of stuff on The Athletic. You can go to theathletic.com/birdswithfriends for a good deal. You can read that piece of us ranking our players for the 1st round. I got the best case mock draft for the Eagles coming up tomorrow. Worst case was on Monday. So lots of good stuff over the next couple of weeks.
Thanks for taking the time, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Brenden.